What if the moment you try to relax is actually the most dangerous moment for an anxious mind? Not dangerous in a dramatic sense, dangerous in the specific, quiet, completely predictable sense that the second you stop moving, stop doing, stop filling the space with something, the thing you were outrunning catches up, and it doesn't just catch up. It arrives louder than it was before you tried to escape it, more urgent, more physical, more impossible to ignore. And you're lying there or sitting there in a situation that is supposed to feel like relief, feeling worse than you did when you were busy. That is not a coincidence. That is not you doing relaxation wrong. That is a specific, completely explainable mechanism that happens inside anxious nervous systems and that almost nobody describes accurately. And once you understand what's actually happening in those moments, why the stillness makes it louder, why the attempt to rest activates rather than calms, why you of all people cannot seem to access the thing that everyone else seems to find automatically, the whole experience stops feeling like a personal failure and starts feeling like something you can actually work with. I'm going to show you exactly what that mechanism is right now. And then I'm going to show you the one thing that changes it, not around it, through it. The mechanism has a name, and the name is threat detection rebound. When you are busy, when you are active, when your attention is occupied by tasks and demands and the forward momentum of doing things, your nervous system has a job. It is managing the immediate environment. It is processing input. It is engaged. And while it is engaged with the external world, the internal alarm system, the part that monitors for emotional threats, unresolved fears, suppressed anxiety, runs at a lower volume. Not off, lower, because the processing bandwidth is being used elsewhere. And then you stop, you sit down, you lie on the couch, you try to breathe, you try to just be for a moment, and the external demands drop away, the bandwidth frees up. And the alarm system, which has been waiting, which has been running quietly underneath everything you were doing all day, suddenly has the full processing capacity of your brain available to it, and it uses it immediately, completely. It brings everything it was holding at lower volume back up to full. Every unresolved worry, every suppressed fear, every background tension that the busyness was keeping quiet, it surfaces all at once, into the silence you just created. That's why you feel worse when you try to relax. The relaxation didn't create the anxiety, it revealed it. It removed the noise that was covering the signal. And the signal, finally heard clearly, feels enormous compared to the moment before. Not because it grew, because the thing that was drowning it out just turned off. And here's the part that makes this specifically hard to break out of. The natural response to feeling worse when you try to relax is to stop trying to relax. To get up, to get busy, to find something to do, to re-engage with the external world in a way that turns the volume back down. And that works. Immediately, reliably, every time. The moment you pick up the phone, or find a task, or put something on to watch, the alarm quiets, the bandwidth fills back up, the anxiety drops to its manageable background level, and your brain logs that as a solution. Busyness works, activity works, filling the space works. And every time you use that solution, the association between stillness and discomfort gets stronger, and the association between activity and relief gets stronger. And gradually, without you making a single conscious decision about it, your nervous system builds a rule. Stillness is where the bad thing is. Movement is where the relief is. Stay moving. And now you are trapped in a very specific, very exhausting loop. You cannot rest because rest activates the alarm. You use activity to quiet the alarm. The activity costs energy. The energy depletes. You need to rest. You try to rest. The alarm activates. You use activity to quiet it. And the capacity for genuine rest, for the kind of stillness that actually restores you, gets further and further away, because every attempt to access it ends in the experience that confirms you should never have tried. So what actually breaks the loop? Because understanding the mechanism is necessary, but it's not enough if there's no door. The door is this: you have to stop trying to relax and start learning to stay. Those are different things, and the difference is everything. Trying to relax is an attempt to produce a feeling, to arrive at calm, to get to the other side of the discomfort quickly, to push through it or bypass it or achieve the state of ease that you're supposed to be feeling. And when you try to relax with that as the goal, every moment of discomfort is evidence of failure. Every anxious thought that surfaces is a sign that it's not working. Every physical sensation that rises up is proof that you're doing it wrong. And so you either fight it, which creates more tension, or you leave, which confirms that you can't stay. Staying is different. Staying is not trying to feel anything in particular. Staying is simply deciding, for a defined and limited period of time, that you are going to remain in the stillness, regardless of what arises in it. Not to fix what arises, not to make it stop. Just to be present with it without acting on the impulse to escape. And when you do that, when you stay with the discomfort of the stillness instead of immediately resolving it with activity, something happens that the escaping never allowed you to discover. The alarm peaks, and then it begins to settle. Not because you fixed anything, not because the underlying concerns resolved themselves, but because the nervous system, running its alarm and receiving no confirmation that there is an actual threat to respond to, gradually reduces the signal. The wave comes up, reaches its height, and comes back down. Every time, without exception. As long as you don't act on it before it peaks. That's the thing the busyness was preventing you from learning. That the alarm passes on its own if you let it run to completion. That stillness is survivable, not just theoretically but experientially in your actual body, in a way that no amount of knowing it intellectually ever replaces. But staying requires something that I want to give you practically, because staying with rising anxiety without a structure is asking a lot of a nervous system that has been trained to escape. The structure is a time container. Before you sit down, you decide exactly how long you're going to stay, not open-ended, not until you feel better. A specific number of minutes. 10 is enough to start, 5 is fine if 10 feels impossible. And you commit to that number as the only rule. You don't have to feel calm. You don't have to enjoy it. You don't have to stop the thoughts. You just have to stay for the agreed amount of time. And inside that container, when the anxiety rises, you don't try to lower it. You observe it. You get curious about it in the most literal, neutral sense of the word. Where is it in the body? What does it feel like physically? Is it in the chest, the stomach, the throat? Is it tight or buzzing or heavy? Does it move or stay in one place? What does it do when you pay attention to it directly rather than trying to get away from it? That shift from fleeing the sensation to observing it changes the brain's relationship with the sensation in a very specific way. The sensation is no longer a threat signal that requires a response. It becomes information, and information, unlike threat, doesn't require you to do anything about it. It just requires you to receive it. And receiving it, even uncomfortably, even imperfectly, is the nervous system learning something it has been trying to learn for a very long time. That the sensation of anxiety in the body is not the same as the presence of actual danger. That you can feel the alarm without the emergency being real. There's one more layer to this that I want to name because it's the reason some people try the staying, and it still feels impossible. Underneath the anxiety that surfaces in the stillness, there is often something specific that the busyness was helping you avoid, not just physiologically but emotionally. Something you haven't sat with. A grief, a resentment, a fear you haven't named clearly yet. a truth about your life or yourself or a relationship that the movement was keeping at a bearable distance. And when you stop moving, it's not just the alarm that surfaces, it's the specific thing. And the specific thing is harder than the general anxiety because it has a shape and a weight and an emotional charge that the generic busyness and relief loop was never designed to process. It was only designed to cover. If you notice that what surfaces in your stillness isn't just anxiety, but something that feels more like sadness, or something unresolved about a specific situation, or something that immediately pulls your attention in one direction with a kind of urgency that feels different from regular worry, that's not a sign that the staying isn't working. That's a sign that the staying is working at a deeper level than expected. That's the nervous system finally getting the space to surface something it has needed to process for longer than the anxiety has been there. And that something doesn't require you to solve it in the stillness. It just requires you to acknowledge it. To say, even just internally, I see you, I know you're there. I'm not going to run from you right now, because the running was never the solution. The running was what kept it unprocessed, which kept it available to surface every time the movement stopped, which kept you needing the movement. Acknowledgement is not the same as resolution, but it is what makes resolution eventually possible, and it is what the stillness, if you let it work, will keep offering you. You have been running from the quiet for a long time, not because you are weak and not because you cannot handle what's in it. Because you learned, accurately and reliably, that stopping made things louder and moving made things quieter, and you chose the thing that felt like relief. But the relief was never real rest. It was postponement. And the postponement has been compounding interest for however long you've been doing this. Every time you escaped the stillness, the thing waiting in it got slightly more charged, slightly more urgent, slightly more ready to flood the space the moment you stopped. The way out is not around it. You already know that trying to go around it is how you got here. The way out is the 10 minutes, the container, the staying, the observation of the sensation without acting on the impulse to flee. Not once, not as a test. As a practice, repeated until the nervous system accumulates enough evidence that stillness is survivable to stop treating it as emergency. It will be uncomfortable the first time, probably the second time, maybe the third. And then something will shift. Small, not dramatic, but real. The wave will come up and instead of grabbing you, it will just rise and fall, the way waves are supposed to. And you will notice that you are still there, still in the stillness. And nothing destroyed you. That noticing is everything. That is the evidence your nervous system has been waiting for. That is what breaks the loop, not the understanding of it, not the knowledge that it's a loop, but the actual lived experience of staying inside what you have always run from and discovering that it was never as dangerous as the running made it seem. You cannot escape the quiet. You never could. Every attempt to escape it brought it back louder the next time you stopped. But you can learn to stay in it. And staying in it is the only thing that ever makes it actually quiet.